to do three things. First of all, I'm going to talk about their policy as a social services choice, because they haven't had a lot that actually dealt with that. Second of all, I'm going to talk about child benefit, and thirdly, I'm going to make some stuff up about parental bonds. But before I do, just a little bit of rebuttal, okay? Because Jason, got up and said that parents are not going to be the main caregivers, and ideally, most of these children are going to be raised by other people. This isn't true for two reasons. First of all, because it is true that these conditions do actually shorten the life expectancy of children. That's not because that's not because the treatment itself is dangerous to children, but because it keeps them at a young age. Okay, there's another condition that keeps children physically at a young age, and it creates the same cost. Basically, when you keep children at a young age, you increase the rate of you keep them at their increased rate of cellular regeneration. That creates a much greater risk of cancer. No, this is actually true. Shut up. But like the life expectancy of children who suffer the similar physical condition is not is between 40 and 50. So they do actually suffer a much lower life expectancy. So there are not only physical risks which are bad for them, but there are physical risks that means that if they have this treatment, they will mostly, that it is just parents. Secondly, though, we don't think this widening the pool is necessarily a good thing, because it means that they're suggesting that these children should be cared for by people who would only care for them if they remain as children. We don't think those are people who are ideal carers for them. Why? Because when you care for someone when they're in a childlike physical state, that creates subconscious expectations that thing will then grow, all of the work that you put into taking care of that child will one day be rewarded. That your child will grow up and look upon you with some kind of admiration and respect. That's not what happens. All that happens is the kid eventually dies without any development, without any growth, and so we don't think allowing those subconscious expectations to form is a good thing. So first of all, social services choice, because the really interesting thing is that in all of their speeches, they haven't provided one argument that actually supports their policy. All they've told you are multiple reasons as to why this is a bad thing. That might be, a case supporting making this policy mandatory, but the policy that they put forward to you and the policy that they needed to defend was making this a choice that was the option of social services. Will explicitly said that this isn't something that should be made mandatory, Mr. Speaker. Okay, so there needs to be some basis upon which that decision's made. In neither of his speeches, and I tried to ask him this in a POI, he offered no basis as to why or how that decision would be made. Go.
They're going to make that decision the same way they make every other decision, which is to say considering the welfare of the child.
Yeah, okay. Well, so they're going to make a decision by creating some factors, and they're making it, he hasn't said how that decision is going to come about. More importantly, we say that's impossible, because obviously this treatment needs to be carried out before the child reaches the physical age of 4, because you can't keep someone at the physical age of 4 until, once they're past the physical age of 4. And we'd say the risk factors the only possible risk factors that they're talking about, like a parent who's a little bit negligent, or, a parent won't develop until the child already reaches that age. So we see there's no basis as to how a social services agency can make this decision. Secondly, we say there's a problem as to whether or not the parent is informed about whether or not this ability of social services exists. If it doesn't, then it's unfair. You allow many parents may object to treating these Frankenstein children. Many parents do object to certain types of medical treatment, certain types of invasions under the law of God. If they don't know if they're unwilling to care for the child under this condition and don't know that this requirement exists, then you allow them to build up an emotional bond with the child and then force them into making this decision. Second, if they do know, however, that social services have this power, it simply creates an incentive on the part of these parents to keep children from treatment. Sit down. Secondly, children's benefit, because we do think there are three very plausible areas as to why there is benefit. Firstly, because the ability to grow and develop into a physical adult is something that parents could see as, is something that is conceivably beneficial for the child. Why? Well, several reasons. Because even though these children exist in a young mental state, children in a young mental state still desire the ability to become a big boy, you know, a big person, to become part of the adult world, Mr. Speaker, to gain that cachet and social status that being a fully formed person has. This is something that satiates one of the very few needs that these Peter Pans actually have, Mr. Speaker, which is to become respected as an actual person. It also allows them to merge into their actual society better. They said that the children will more easily relate to these 4-year-old monsters. That's just not true. Children to these people are going to be transient visitors. They will only know a child for about 1 or 2 years when they're at about the same age, and then either, best case scenario, they'll be completely forgotten, or they'll be violently spurned when they realise that their partner is actually their friend is actually a freak created by some accident. These children will mainly know the company of adults. Allowing them to reach a state in which they are physically adult allows them to relate to those adults better. It allows them to feel that they are genuinely a part of that society. Secondly, the desire to have children is often a desire that even young children have. That's why little girls carry around baby dolls. Okay, this is a desire that even young children can plausibly have, and we'd say given that. And not only that, but these are all things that the parents themselves do understand. What it is to, physically grow up, what it is to have a child. And so we do think that these are things that parents have the ability to weigh. Moreover, and more importantly, there's the possibility of treatment. Because mental conditions are irreversible now, but are not necessarily irreversible with the progress of science, okay? Stem cell treatments, whatever, could eventually allow those things to develop. And it's not necessarily true that this treatment would be reversible at the same time. Moreover, and even if it is, it's probably going to be invasive. Moreover, if you allow this quick fix to develop, it makes it much less likely that treatments emerge, because you do exactly what Will suggested. You disguise these children into society so that the problem is no longer recognised. And when a problem is no longer recognised, the problem tends not to be fixed. Bye.